The bridge of the Earth warship Vanguard was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from the control panels. Commander Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair, looking over the daily reports from his crew. It had been 3 years since humans joined the Galactic Council, and most days were routine patrols through empty space. The other alien races still looked at humans with curiosity. They came from Earth, a high-gravity world that the aliens called a death world. Most species thought humans were reckless and too emotional, but they were friendly enough. Lieutenant Amy Phillips was monitoring the communication systems when her screen suddenly lit up with an incoming signal. She leaned forward, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. Something was wrong. The signal was tagged as an emergency broadcast. "Commander, I'm picking up a distress call," Amy said, her voice cutting through the quiet bridge. "It's coming from Epsilon Prime." Jake sat up straight. Epsilon Prime was a Zenthari colony. The Zenthari were peaceful, insect-like aliens who had been kind to humans from the first day they met. They were traders and farmers, not warriors. They had no enemies that Jake knew about. "Put it through the speakers," Jake ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a panicked voice came through. It was Administrator Clickthar, the leader of the Epsilon Prime colony. His translator made his clicking language into words humans could understand, but the fear in his voice needed no translation. "This is Epsilon Prime. We are under attack. Unknown vessels are firing on our colony. They won't answer our calls. People are dying. Buildings are burning. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help right now. Our defenses are destroyed. We have no weapons. Please help us." The message repeated twice more, then cut to silence. Jake felt his jaw tighten. He pressed the button on his chair that connected him directly to Fleet Admiral Charles Hayes back on Earth. Within seconds, the Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. The old man had gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was sharp and clear. "I heard the message too, Commander," Admiral Hayes said before Jake could speak. "How fast can you get there?" 42 minutes at maximum speed, sir," Jake replied. "You have full authorization to deploy. I'm sending the 2nd and 5th fleets as backup, but they're farther out. You'll get there first." "Morrison, the Zenthari don't have enemies. Whoever is attacking them either doesn't know about Council protection laws, or they don't care." "Yes, sir. If they don't care about the laws, we'll make them care," Jake said. Admiral Hayes nodded. "Good hunting. Hayes out." The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. Every eye on the bridge was watching him, waiting for orders. These were good people, trained and ready. They knew what was coming. "All hands, battle stations," Jake announced into the ship-wide communication system. "This is not a drill. We have a colony under attack. Helm, set course for Epsilon Prime, maximum hyperspace speed. I want us there in 40 minutes, not 42. "Yes, sir," replied the helmsman, his fingers already dancing across his controls. "Tactical, power up all weapon systems. I want railguns loaded and ready the moment we drop out of hyperspace. Missiles armed and targeting computers online," Jake continued. Lieutenant Commander Danny Brooks at the weapons station gave a sharp nod. "Already on it, sir. We'll be ready." "Communications. Send a message to the Defender and the Liberator. Tell them to form up with us and prepare for combat operations," Jake said to Amy. "Message sent, sir. Both ships acknowledge and are moving into formation," Amy reported. The Vanguard began to accelerate. The ship was designed for speed and hitting power. Humans had built their warships differently than other species, where the aliens used massive vessels with energy shields and plasma weapons. Humans preferred smaller, faster ships with kinetic weapons, railguns that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds, missiles with smart computers that could think and dodge. The aliens thought these weapons were primitive. Jake knew better. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Ensign Lisa Grant spoke up from the engineering station. "Sir, engines are at maximum output. All systems are green. We're ready for whatever we find." "Good work, Lisa," Jake said. He stood up from his chair and walked to the front of the bridge, looking out at the stars stretching into lines as they entered hyperspace. "Listen up, everyone. The Zenthari are our friends. They welcomed us when we were new to space. They shared their knowledge and their trade routes. Now someone is killing them, and we're going to stop it. I don't know who we're about to face, but I know this. We're faster, we're meaner, and we're from Earth. We grew up in higher gravity than almost any species in the galaxy. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. Whoever is attacking that colony is about to learn what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders." The crew responded with determined nods. Jake could see the fire in their eyes. Humans might be new to space, but they understood combat. It was in their blood, passed down through countless generations of survival on a harsh world. Amy checked her console. "Sir, I'm monitoring all frequencies. The Epsilon Prime distress signal has stopped broadcasting." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Does that mean they're gone?" "Unknown, sir. Could be their transmitter was destroyed, or they shut it down to avoid giving away positions. We won't know until we arrive." The minutes crawled by. Jake paced the bridge, his mind running through tactical scenarios. Unknown enemy, unknown numbers, unknown capabilities. It was a bad situation, but humans had faced bad situations before. They adapted. They overcame. It was what they did best. 30 seconds to arrival, the helmsman announced. "All stations, report status," Jake ordered. "Weapons hot and ready," Danny called out. The tactical display lit up with red enemy markers. Jake counted them quickly. 15 hostile ships in orbit around Epsilon Prime. They were large vessels, bigger than the human ships. Their weapons were firing down at the planet's surface, bright streaks of energy burning through the atmosphere. "Report," Jake snapped. Amy's fingers moved fast across her console. Her face was pale. "Sir, 15 unknown vessels are attacking the colony. The Zenthari defense platforms are completely destroyed. I'm scanning the surface now. Life signs are dropping fast. The main colony structure has been breached." "Can you identify the attackers?" Jake asked. "Running the ship profiles through our database now. No match for any known council species." "Wait, I'm getting something. These ships match reports from frontier traders." "Sir, these are Krellians." Jake had heard the name before. Whispered warnings from merchants who traveled the edge of known space. The Krellians were predators, a reptilian species that took what they wanted by force. They had been raiding undefended outposts for years, but always in unclaimed territory. This was different. Epsilon Prime was protected by council law. "They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies," Amy continued. "Putting it through now." A harsh voice filled the bridge. The translator struggled to make sense of the alien language, but the meaning was clear enough. "Attention, inferior beings. This system belongs to the Krellian Dominion now. Your lives mean nothing. Your resources are ours. If you resist, you will die." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Danny spoke up from weapons. "Sir, the lead Krellian vessel is hailing us directly." "Put it on screen," Jake said. The view screen changed to show a reptilian face. Scales covered its skin, and its eyes were cold and yellow. It had no lips, just a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, those teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Humans," the Krellian said. "We know about your species. Weak creatures from a water world who think they can play among the stars. Turn your ships around and leave. If you stay, we will destroy you along with these insects." Jake kept his voice calm and steady. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Epsilon Prime is under Galactic Council protection. You are breaking the Sentinel Accords. Power down your weapons and withdraw from this system immediately." The Krellian laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping on stone. "The Council is weak. Their laws are just words. We deal in action, not talk. You have 30 seconds to run away, human. Then we will show you what real power looks like." The screen went black. Jake turned to Danny. "Tactical assessment. What are we facing?" Danny studied his displays, his training taking over. "Their ships are bigger and they have more firepower than us in terms of total weapons. Heavy plasma cannons on each vessel, some kind of missile system too. Their shields look strong, probably designed to handle energy weapons. But sir, their formation is terrible. They're spread out with no support pattern. They're not expecting a real fight." "Sir," Amy interrupted, "I'm receiving another transmission from the planet. It's Clickthar. He's still alive." "Put him through," Jake ordered. The administrator's voice was weak and filled with pain. "Commander Morrison, is that you? Please tell me you're really here." We're here, Clickthar. How bad is it down there? Jake asked. 3,000 dead already. They hit us without warning. Our shelters are breached. We have children hiding in the underground tunnels, but the Krellians are sending troops to the surface. Commander, we have maybe 10 minutes before they find everyone. Please, you have to help us. Jake made his decision. There was no time to wait for the other fleets. No time for careful planning. The Zenthari needed help right now, and humans knew how to move fast when lives were on the line. Hold on, Clickthar. We're coming. Keep everyone in the deepest tunnels you can find, Jake said. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, attack formation Delta. We're going in hard and fast. Target priority is those ships firing on the surface. We need to stop the bombardment first. Sir, shouldn't we wait for backup? We're outnumbered 5-1, Amy said quietly. Jake shook his head. In 10 minutes, there won't be anyone left to save. We go now. Helm, full attack speed. Take us right down their throats. The Vanguard leaped forward, her engines burning at maximum power. The Defender and Liberator followed, 3 human warships against 15 Krellian cruisers. The odds looked bad on paper, but Jake knew something the Krellians didn't. Humans had been fighting and surviving for thousands of years. They knew how to hit hard, hit fast, and hit where it hurt most. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Danny announced. Target the command ship first. I want to cut off their communications and leadership. Load kinetic penetrators. Let's see how their shields handle solid tungsten at 0.7 light speed, Jake ordered. Kinetic rounds loaded and ready, targeting their command vessel, Danny confirmed. The Krellian ships were turning now, bringing their weapons to bear on the approaching human vessels. They were big and powerful, built to intimidate and overwhelm, but they were also slow to respond. The humans were smaller, faster, more agile. 10 seconds to weapons range, Danny counted down. Jake watched the tactical display. The Krellian commander probably thought the humans would slow down, would try to negotiate, would show fear. That was a mistake. Humans didn't slow down when their friends were dying. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Firing. The Vanguard's railguns spoke. There was no sound in space, but through the ship's hull, the crew could feel the vibration as massive tungsten projectiles were magnetically accelerated down the barrel and out into space. They moved at incredible speed, too fast for the eye to track. The aliens used energy weapons that could be seen and dodged. Human kinetic weapons were different. By the time you saw them, they had already hit you. The first round slammed into the Krellian flagship's shields. The impacts weren't bright flashes like plasma fire. They were brutal, hammering strikes of solid metal traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The Krellian shields flickered and sparked. On the Krellian command ship, alarms were blaring. The commander stared at his displays in confusion. What are they firing? Those are just metal slugs. Primitive kinetic weapons. His tactical officer's voice was tight with worry. Commander, the velocity is extreme. Our shields aren't designed for this. They're calibrated to disperse energy, not to stop solid projectiles. Shield strength at 70% and dropping with each hit. Return fire. Destroy those human ships, the commander roared. The Krellian vessels opened up with their plasma cannons. Green bolts of superheated energy streaked across space toward the human ships. The Vanguard shook as the first volley hit her shields. Shields holding at 85%, Lisa called out from engineering. They hit hard, but we can take it. Keep firing. All batteries. Don't give them time to adapt, Jake ordered. Captain Helen Pierce commanded the Defender, and her voice came through clear and steady on the communication channel. Understood, Vanguard. We're engaging the surface bombardment vessels now. These bastards are going to regret ever coming here. The Defender and Liberator broke formation and dove toward the Krellian ships that were still firing at the planet. Their railguns opened up, sending streams of kinetic projectiles into the enemy vessels. The Krellians tried to turn and fight, but they were caught between the need to defend themselves and their mission to destroy the colony below. 2 Krellian cruisers moved to intercept the Vanguard. They were trying to use their superior size and firepower to overwhelm the human flagship. Their plasma cannons fired in coordinated volleys, lighting up space with deadly green energy. Jake's ship rolled and twisted, dodging the worst of the fire while his weapons continued their relentless assault. Launch missiles, Jake ordered. Smart munitions, pattern 7. Let's see how good their point defense is. Danny's fingers flew across his controls. Missiles away, 20 birds in the air. The missiles burst from the Vanguard's launch tubes and immediately began to spread out. These weren't dumb rockets that flew in straight lines. Human missiles had sophisticated computer brains. They could think, adapt, and work together. As the Krellian point defense systems opened fire, trying to shoot down the incoming missiles, the weapons jinked and weaved. They used the debris from the damaged command ship as cover. They communicated with each other, coordinating their approach. The Krellians managed to destroy 14 of the missiles. 6 got through. They struck the 2 cruisers at critical points, targeting engine systems and weapon arrays. One cruiser lost main power and began to tumble slowly through space. The other took a direct hit to its plasma cannon array and went dark. 2 more targets disabled, Danny reported. The rest of their fleet is breaking formation. I think they're starting to realize they're in trouble. On the planet below, Administrator Clickthar huddled in the underground tunnel with the survivors of his colony. The bombing had stopped suddenly. Through the cracks in the ceiling, he could see flashes of light in the sky. The battle was happening up there, beyond the clouds. He held a Zenthari child close, trying to offer comfort even though he was terrified himself. "Are the bad ships gone?" the child asked in clicking sounds. "I don't know, little one. But the humans are fighting for us. They came to help," Clickthar replied. "Why would they help us? We can't fight. We have nothing to give them," the child said. Clickthar thought about that. It was a good question. The Zenthari were peaceful traders. They had no great weapons, no valuable military technology. By the cold logic of survival, there was no reason for the humans to risk their lives. But they had come anyway. Maybe there were things more important than logic. "Because they're our friends," Clickthar answered simply. "And friends help each other." In space, the battle was reaching its conclusion. The Vanguard had destroyed or disabled 7 Krellian vessels. The Defender and Liberator had taken out 4 more. 4 Krellian ships remained combat-capable, and they were trying desperately to escape. Their engines flared as they attempted to jump to hyperspace. "Sir, detecting energy buildup on the remaining hostile vessels," Amy warned. "They're trying to run." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Not acceptable. These murderers killed 3,000 civilians. They don't get to just leave. Danny, target their hyperspace emitters. Precision shots. I want those ships dead in the water. Targeting now. This is going to be tricky." "Those emitters are small targets," Danny said, his voice tense with concentration. "You can do it. You're the best shot on this ship," Jake said. Danny took a breath and focused on his targeting computer. His neural link with the ship's systems let him aim with incredible precision. He could feel the weapons as if they were extensions of his own body. The first shot fired. A single kinetic round, perfectly aimed. It struck the hyperspace emitter on a Krellian cruiser, and the device exploded in a shower of sparks. The ship's escape was cut off. "One down, moving to target 2, Danny said. He fired again, and again. Each shot was perfect. One by one, the remaining Krellian ships lost their ability to flee. They were trapped, damaged, floating in space with no way to escape and no hope of victory. "All enemy vessels disabled or destroyed," Amy reported. "Sir, the battle is over. We won." Jake let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Damage report. How are we?" Lisa checked her engineering displays. "Minor hull damage on the Liberator from plasma fire. Nothing serious. Shield generators across the fleet need time to recharge. But overall, we're in good shape, sir. All ships remain combat capable." "Casualties?" Jake asked, almost afraid of the answer. "Zero, sir. We didn't lose anyone," Amy said, her voice filled with amazement. Jake sat back in his chair. 15 enemy warships, 3 human vessels, 8 minutes of combat. Total enemy defeat. 0 friendly casualties. When he reported this to Fleet Command, they would probably think he was exaggerating. But every sensor reading, every tactical log, would confirm it. This was what happened when you trained for combat on a high-gravity world. This was what happened when your entire species had been fighting and surviving for thousands of years. This was what happened when you made the mistake of threatening a human's friends. Open a channel to the planet, Jake ordered. After a moment, Clickthar's voice came through. The administrator sounded like he was crying, if that was something Zenthari could do. Commander Morrison, please tell me you're still there. Please tell me we're safe. You're safe, Clickthar. The Krellians are neutralized. Every single one of their ships is either destroyed or captured. They won't hurt anyone else, Jake said gently. I don't understand. 15 warships. You had 3. How did you defeat them so quickly? The administrator asked. We're from Earth, Clickthar. We come from a harder place than most species. And we protect our friends. That's all you need to know, Jake replied. Thank you. Thank you so much. I need to tell the others. We're saved. The humans saved us, Clickthar said, his voice breaking. Jake ended the transmission and looked at his crew. They were tired, but proud. They had done good work today. They had saved lives. That was what mattered. Amy, send a message to Fleet Command. Full battle report. Also send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we engaged Krellian forces attacking Epsilon Prime in violation of the Sentinel Accords. All attackers neutralized. Request Council presence for follow-up, Jake said. Message sent, sir, Amy confirmed. Sir, what do we do with the Sioux 6 hours after the battle ended? The Galactic Council's response force arrived. 20 ships representing 7 different alien species dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Epsilon Prime system. Their weapons were powered up and ready for combat. But there was no battle to fight. The Krellian threat had already been eliminated. Destroyed ships floated in orbit. Captured vessels sat dead in space, their systems powered down and guarded by human marines. Counselor Veshitar of the Palithian Confederation appeared as a hologram on the Vanguard's bridge. He was a tall alien with 4 eyes arranged around his head, and right now all 4 eyes were cycling through expressions of confusion and disbelief. Commander Morrison, Veshitar said slowly, we received the distress call from Epsilon Prime and mobilized our fastest ships immediately. We traveled at maximum emergency speed. It took us just under 7 hours to arrive. How long have you been here? Jake checked the mission clock. 6 hours and 17 minutes, Counselor. Veshitar's translator made a sound that might have been him clearing his throat. Commander, we have reviewed the tactical data your ships transmitted to the Council database. According to this data, you engaged 15 Krellian warships with only 3 vessels of your own. Is this correct? Yes, Counselor, that's correct, Jake confirmed. The data also indicates that the entire engagement lasted approximately 8 of your Earth minutes, and that you suffered 0 casualties while completely destroying or disabling all 15 enemy vessels, Veshitar continued. Also correct, sir, Jake said. There was a long pause. Jake could see the counselor's 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his species. Finally, Veshitar spoke again. Commander Morrison, when humanity applied for membership in the Galactic Council 3 years ago, your military capabilities were thoroughly assessed. You were classified as a developing spacefaring species with adequate but unexceptional defensive technology. The assessment team rated your military as moderate threat level. This battle performance suggests that assessment was very, very wrong. Jake tried not to smile. With respect, Counselor, I think your assessment team might have misunderstood what we meant by adequate. On the surface of Epsilon Prime, human medical teams were working alongside Zenthari survivors. Dr. Paul Stevens knelt beside a wounded Zenthari child, using a portable scanner to check for internal injuries. The child's carapace was cracked, but would heal. Paul applied a synthetic bonding agent that would hold the pieces together while the natural healing process took over. Administrator Clickthar watched the humans work with amazement. They moved with practiced efficiency, setting up field hospitals, distributing supplies, treating the wounded. Everything was organized and fast. Within 2 hours of landing, the humans had established a complete medical facility in the middle of the devastated colony. Your efficiency is remarkable, Clickthar said to Paul. Most species would take days to organize a relief effort of this scale. You did it in hours. Paul didn't look up from his work. His hands moved steadily as he finished treating the child. We've had a lot of practice. Administrator, Earth has seen its share of disasters. Earthquakes, floods, wars. You learn to move fast when lives are on the line. But your weapons technology, your battle tactics. The Council told us that humanity was peaceful, that you were new to space and still learning, Clickthar said. Paul finally looked up and met the administrator's compound eyes. We are peaceful, Administrator. But peaceful doesn't mean weak. It doesn't mean defenseless. On Earth, we have an old saying. Walk softly and carry a big stick. It means you prefer not to fight, but when someone forces you into a corner, when someone threatens innocent lives, you end that threat quickly and completely. A young Zenthari female approached them, one of her 6 limbs wrapped in human bandages. She clicked a question to Clickthar, her voice high and uncertain. She wants to know why the humans came to save us, Clickthar translated. She says we have nothing valuable, no great weapons or technology. She asks why you would risk your lives for us when we cannot repay you. Paul knelt down so he was at eye level with the young Zenthari. He spoke slowly and clearly, knowing Clickthar would translate. Tell her that's not how friendship works. You don't help people because of what they can give you. You help them because it's right. Because they need help and you can provide it. That's all the reason you need. The young Zenthari made a sound that might have been understanding. She reached out with one limb and touched Paul's hand gently before walking away to find her family. Clickthar was quiet for a moment. You humans are strange, but I think I begin to understand why. Your world was harsh. It made you strong, but somehow it also made you kind. That is a rare combination in the galaxy. Back on the Vanguard, Jake was in a conference call with Admiral Hayes. The Admiral's hologram stood in the center of the bridge, and he looked both proud and concerned. Commander, I've read your after-action report 3 times. I've watched the tactical recordings. Hell of a job. Clean, fast, professional. But we have a problem developing, Hayes said. Sir? Jake asked. Half the Galactic Council is screaming about humanity fielding weapons that weren't disclosed during the membership process. They're demanding explanations. They want to know why we didn't tell them about our full capabilities. The other half of the Council is busy updating their military databases and threat assessments. Some of them are scared, Jake. Scared of us, Hayes explained. Jake frowned. Did we lie during the application process? No. We told them exactly what they asked for. They wanted to know if we had faster-than-light weapons. We don't, so we said no. They asked about exotic energy systems beyond conventional plasma. We don't rely on those, so we said no. They never asked if we had weapons that could punch through standard galactic shielding like tissue paper. They never asked how fast our ships could move or how well our crews could handle high-gravity combat maneuvers, Hayes said. So they made assumptions, Jake observed. Exactly. They assumed we would fight like them, build ships like them, think like them. They didn't account for the fact that we've been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years on a planet with gravity that would crush most of their species. They didn't think about what it means to come from a death world, Hayes said. What's our official position, sir? Jake asked. We cooperate fully, answer their questions honestly, but we make it clear that we didn't hide anything. They asked the wrong questions and made incorrect assumptions. That's their failure, not ours, Hayes replied. Oh, and Jake, there's one more thing. The Krellian Dominion is demanding we release their surviving ships and crews. They claim we attacked them without provocation. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. They murdered 3,000 civilians. They bombed a defenseless colony. And they want us to just let them go? That's what they're demanding. The Council is going to have to sort this out. But for now, you hold those prisoners. They're evidence. They'll answer for what they did, Hayes said firmly. Yes, sir. What about the Krellians as a whole? Are they going to try again? Jake asked. Hayes was quiet for a moment. Our intelligence suggests the Krellians have been expanding aggressively for years. They've been hitting undefended colonies and taking what they want. No one has stopped them before. They probably thought Epsilon Prime would be an easy target. Now they know different. Now they know that hitting a council world means facing humanity. My guess is they'll think too, weeks after the battle at Epsilon Prime, Jake stood in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council Assembly. The room was enormous, designed to hold representatives from dozens of different species. Holographic projectors created a semicircle of alien faces around a central platform where Jake stood alone. The setup was meant to intimidate. Put one person in the center of all that attention and make them feel small and isolated. But Jake had grown up on Earth where gravity was stronger than most places in the galaxy. He had trained in environments that would kill many of the species watching him. He stood straight and calm, waiting for the council to speak. High Counselor Mordek was a crystalline being. His species had been traveling through space for 12,000 years. His body chimed softly as he moved, like wind through glass. When he spoke, his voice was ancient and measured. Commander Morrison, this assembly has reviewed all data regarding the events at Epsilon Prime. We acknowledge that you acted in defense of a council member world. We acknowledge that the Zenthari colony would have been completely destroyed without your intervention. However, we remain disturbed by the level of force employed and by humanity's apparent concealment of military capabilities. Jake kept his voice respectful but firm. High Counselor, with respect, humanity concealed nothing. When we applied for council membership 3 years ago, we provided complete documentation of our military technology. Every weapon system, every ship class, everything was in the application files. Counselor Veshitar leaned forward, his 4 eyes focusing on Jake. Your weapons destroyed Krellian shields rated to withstand sustained plasma bombardment. Your tactical response time was faster than any species in the database. Your crews performed combat maneuvers that would incapacitate most beings due to gravitational forces. These factors were not in your disclosure documents. Because they're not technology, Counselor. They're biology and training. You asked about our weapons, we told you. Kinetic projectiles, guided missiles, chemical propulsion systems. You assumed those would be less effective than energy weapons. That assumption was yours to make, not ours to correct, Jake replied. A reptilian counselor from the Sarin Collective spoke up, her voice harsh. Are you suggesting that the Council's military assessment protocols are inadequate, human? Jake chose his words carefully. I'm suggesting the protocols didn't account for Deathworld adaptations. Most species in this council evolved on garden worlds, moderate gravity, abundant resources, peaceful environments. When you developed space travel, you brought that peaceful approach with you. Earth isn't like that. Humans evolved as hunters on a planet where almost everything was dangerous. We learned to make weapons from anything we could find. We learned to fight because we had to survive. High Counselor Mordek's crystalline structure chimed thoughtfully. You describe humanity as a warrior species. Many council members find this concerning. We're not warriors by choice, High Counselor. We're survivors. There's a difference. Warriors seek conflict for glory or conquest. Survivors do what's necessary to protect themselves and those they care about. The Zenthari welcomed us when we joined the council. They shared knowledge and friendship. When they were attacked, we responded the only way we knew how, quickly, decisively. With enough force to stop the threat completely, Jake explained. The chamber was quiet for several seconds. Then Administrator Clickthar, attending via hologram from Epsilon Prime, clicked for attention. High Counselors, may I speak? Mordek gestured with a crystalline limb. You may, Administrator. 3,000 of my people died before the humans arrived. The Krellians were slaughtering us without mercy. Our defenses meant nothing to them. We were minutes from total extinction. Every Zenthari would have died. Then the humans came. They saved us. I do not care if their weapons are unconventional. I do not care if their methods are different from standard council procedures. I care that my children are alive. I care that my species still exists. The council can debate protocols all you want, but ask yourselves this. How many other colonies have suffered what we almost suffered because council response time is measured in hours or days? The humans measured their response in minutes. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Finally, Counselor Veshtar spoke more quietly. You raise a valid point, Administrator. The Council's peacekeeping forces are designed to maintain order among civilized species. We are not equipped to respond to active military aggression. We have perhaps grown too comfortable in our long peace. Jake saw an opportunity. High Counselors, humanity doesn't want to disrupt the Council or challenge your authority. But we do bring something unique. We bring speed. We bring decisive action. And yes, we bring weapons designed by a species that understands violent conflict. Maybe instead of seeing that as a threat, you could see it as an asset. Explain, Mordek said simply. The Krellians aren't the only aggressive species on the frontier. There are others testing boundaries, seeing how far they can push before someone pushes back. The Council's diplomatic approach works well for civilized species. For the others, you need someone willing to respond with force. Fast force. Overwhelming force, Jake said. A small flying species chirped through its translator. You propose that humanity becomes the Council's military enforcement arm? This is unprecedented. So was destroying 15 warships in 8 minutes, Jake countered. Look, we don't want to be the galaxy's police. We don't want to throw our weight around. But when someone threatens innocent lives, when diplomacy fails and action is required, we can be there. We can respond faster than any other Council species, and we can stop threats before they become massacres. High Counselor Mordek's structure chimed for a long time. The sound filled the chamber. Finally, he spoke. This assembly will deliberate on your proposal. Commander Morrison, you are dismissed while we discuss this matter. Jake saluted in the Earth military fashion and left the chamber. Outside, Admiral Hayes was waiting. The old man looked tired but curious. How did it go? Hayes asked. Could go either way, sir. They're either going to accept us as a legitimate military power and give us a formal role, or they're going to try to restrict our fleet operations, Jake replied. Hayes nodded slowly. My money is on acceptance. They're scared, Jake. Scared of what happened at Epsilon Prime. Scared of what other threats might be out there, and maybe a little scared of us. But they're also smart enough to know that fear and respect can go together. 3 hours later, Jake was called back to the council chamber. The holographic representatives had returned to their positions. High Counselor Mordek spoke with formal gravity. Commander Morrison, after extensive deliberation, the Galactic Council has reached a decision. We recognize that humanity's approach to military conflict, while unconventional, proved effective in defending Epsilon Prime. We also recognize that the galaxy faces threats we have been slow to acknowledge. Therefore, the Council offers humanity a new role. You will serve as our rapid response fleet. Your ships will be authorized to respond to military threats against Council members with full authority to use necessary force. You will operate under Council oversight, but with significant operational freedom. In exchange, humanity will provide tactical training to Council defense forces and share knowledge to improve galactic security. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt triumph. On behalf of Earth and Fleet Command, I accept the basic framework. We'll need to work out the 6 months had passed since the battle at Epsilon Prime. The galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Human ships now patrolled the frontier zones, their distinctive profiles becoming familiar sights to traders and colonists across Council space. The Earth Defense Force had expanded its role significantly, and the name that had once been whispered with curiosity was now spoken with respect and sometimes fear. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vanguard as his ship cruised through the Outer Rim territories. 3 more incidents had occurred in the months since Epsilon Prime. Each time, human rapid response teams had arrived quickly and resolved the situation with their characteristic efficiency. A pirate raid on a mining colony. An attempted invasion of a farming world by territorial expansionists. A hostage situation at a diplomatic station. All handled. All resolved. 0 civilian casualties after human intervention. The other species were learning. When you attacked a Council world, humans came. And when humans came, the fight was over fast. The lesson had spread through both legal and illegal channels. Criminal organizations that once preyed on weak colonies now avoided Council space entirely. Aggressive species that had been pushing boundaries suddenly found those boundaries reinforced with tungsten and determination. Lieutenant Amy Phillips turned from her station. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Krellian Dominion. They're requesting a diplomatic meeting. Jake raised an eyebrow. The Krellians had been quiet since Epsilon Prime. They had paid reparations to the Zenthari as ordered by the Council. Their surviving crew members had been returned after serving time in Council detention facilities. but they had not engaged with humanity directly. "Put it through," Jake said. A Krellian face appeared on the screen. This one was older than the commander they had fought, with more elaborate scale patterns and scarring that suggested a lifetime of combat. When he spoke, his tone was different from the arrogant threats of 6 months ago. There was respect in his voice now, and caution. "Commander Morrison, I am War Leader Kreshitar of the Krellian Military Command. I request permission to speak with you directly." "Permission granted, War Leader. What can I do for you?" Jake asked. "I wish to discuss the events at Epsilon Prime. My government has reviewed all tactical data from that engagement. We have studied your methods, your weapons, your approach to combat. We believed ourselves to be the dominant military power in this region. You proved us wrong in 8 minutes, Kreshitar said. "Is this a threat, War Leader?" Jake asked calmly. "No, Commander. This is respect. In Krellian culture, we value strength above all else. You demonstrated strength. You also demonstrated restraint. You could have destroyed all our ships and killed all our crews. Instead, you disabled us and took prisoners. You followed your laws even in the heat of battle." "This is uncommon in our experience," Kreshitar explained. Jake was surprised but didn't show it. "War Leader, we don't enjoy killing. We do it when necessary to protect innocent lives. Your crews were defeated. They posed no further threat. There was no reason to kill them. This is what I have come to understand. The Krellian Dominion wishes to propose a treaty. We will respect all Galactic Council boundaries. We will cease aggressive expansion into claimed territories. In exchange, we ask for a non-aggression pact with humanity and access to certain trading routes," Kreshitar said. "That's a council matter, War Leader. I'm just a ship commander. But I'll forward your proposal to the appropriate diplomatic channels," Jake replied. "Thank you, Commander. One more thing. My people would like to understand your combat methods better. Not to use against you, but to improve our own forces. Would humanity be willing to conduct joint training exercises?" Kreshitar asked. Jake thought about that. Teaching potential enemies how to fight better seemed risky. But it also seemed like an opportunity. If the Krellians were willing to learn, willing to change, maybe they could become something other than a threat. "I'll pass that request along too, War Leader. No promises, but I think the Council might be interested in turning former enemies into future allies," Jake said. The transmission ended. Amy looked at Jake with amazement. "Sir, did that really just happen? The Krellians want to learn from us?" "Apparently. Fear and respect, Amy. Sometimes they go together," Jake said. Later that day, Jake stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Dr. Paul Stevens joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Jake. "I heard about the Krellian transmission." "That's big news," Paul said. "Yeah, I'm still processing it. 6 months ago they were trying to kill us. Now they want to train with us," Jake replied. "It makes sense, though. You showed them something they'd never seen before. Overwhelming force combined with mercy. Most species in the galaxy are either too weak to fight effectively or too brutal when they do fight. Humans are different. We hit hard, but we know when to stop," Paul observed. "Is that what we are? The galaxy's enforcers?" Jake asked. Paul shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe we're just the ones willing to do what's necessary. The Council needed someone who could respond fast to threats. Someone who understood combat but wasn't ruled by bloodlust. We fit that role whether we wanted it or not." Jake sipped his coffee. "Do you think we're doing the right thing? Moving through space with all these weapons ready to fight at a moment's notice? I think we're saving lives. Epsilon Prime, the mining colony, the farming world. All those people are alive because we were there, because we were willing to act." "That's not a small thing, Jake," Paul said. The ship's communication system beeped. Amy's voice came through. "Commander, we're receiving a distress call from a Council research station in the Theta sector. They're under attack by unknown forces. Station defense systems are offline. They're requesting immediate assistance." Jake set down his coffee cup. "How far?" 38 minutes at maximum speed, sir," Amy replied. Jake headed for the bridge at a run, Paul right behind him. This was what they did now. This was who they had become. The rapid response, the fast solution, The force that turned desperate situations into survival stories. They were from Earth, a planet that had made them strong and fast and determined. And now they brought that strength to the stars. On the bridge, the crew was already moving, weapon systems powering up, course being plotted. The Defender and Liberator acknowledging formation positions. It was all automatic now, practiced and smooth. The humans knew their jobs and did them with the efficiency of a species that had spent thousands of years learning how to respond to emergencies. All hands, battle stations. Set course for Theta Sector Research Station. Maximum speed, Jake ordered as he dropped into his command chair. Amy, send word ahead. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on. Message sent, sir. They acknowledge. They say there are civilians on that station. Scientists. Children, Amy reported. Jake's jaw tightened. Then we'd better move fast. Helm, I want every bit of speed you can give me. Cut that 38 minutes to 30 if possible. Yes, sir. Engaging maximum burn now, the helmsman replied. The Vanguard leaped forward, her engines pushing her to the limits of her design. Through the viewport, stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace. Somewhere ahead, people were in danger. Somewhere ahead, someone had made the mistake of attacking innocents in council space. And they were about to learn what others had learned before them. When you hurt the innocent, when you threaten the weak, when you break the peace, humans came for you. They came fast. They came hard. And they came with the absolute determination to end the threat. Not because they loved war, not because they sought glory, but because it was the right thing to do. Because someone had to stand between the predators and their prey. And humans from Earth, survivors from a harsh world, had decided that someone would be them. The galaxy had learned a new phrase in the past 6 months. When danger struck, when colonies called for help, when the situation seemed hopeless, people said the same thing. They said it with hope and relief and absolute confidence. They said it in 100 different languages across dozens of species. They said, "The humans are coming." And that was enough. Because from the moment a distress signal went out to the moment the threat was eliminated, humans measured the time in minutes, not hours. From SOS to Annihilation, the Earth's Deathworlder fleet had become the galaxy's shield and sword. They were fast, they were deadly, and they were always, always there when you needed them. Jake watched the countdown timer. 31 minutes to arrival. Whoever was attacking that research station had 31 minutes of freedom left. Then the humans would arrive. And the galaxy knew what happened after that. The threat would end. The innocent would be saved. The attackers would learn a lesson they would never forget. This was humanity's role now, the rapid response, the fast solution, the force that turned terror into safety in the span of minutes. It wasn't the future they had imagined when they first reached for the stars. But it was the future they had chosen when they decided that some things mattered more than safety or comfort. Things like friendship, like justice, like the simple, fundamental belief that the strong had a duty to protect the weak. The Vanguard raced through hyperspace, 3 human warships carrying the promise of salvation to those who called for help. Behind them, across the entire galaxy, other species watched and learned and understood. Earth had joined the stars. And the stars would never be quite the same again. Details. But humanity is honored to serve the Council in this capacity. There is one condition, Veshtar added. We need to understand how Deathworlders think, how you assess threats, how you make decisions under pressure. You will assign liaison officers to work with other Council species. Help us understand your perspective. Agreed. We'll start immediately, Jake said. As the formal proceedings ended and counselors began to disconnect, Clickthar approached Jake privately through the holographic link. Thank you, Commander. Not just for saving my people. Thank you for helping the Council see reason. Jake smiled. I didn't do anything special, Administrator. I just showed them what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. We protect those who can't protect themselves. It's who we are. Perhaps that is what makes you special, Commander. That you see it as normal, Clickthar replied. Twice before trying this again. And if they don't, Jake asked, then we'll be ready. Fleet Command is already discussing expanded patrol routes and faster response protocols. The Council is going to have some decisions to make about how they handle military threats. This attack has exposed weaknesses in their peacekeeping systems, Hayes said. The conversation ended, and Jake was left alone with his thoughts. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had been seen as harmless newcomers, curious primitives from a backwater planet. That perception had just been shattered. Now they would be seen as something else. Warriors, protectors, Deathworlders who could end a fight in minutes. Jake wasn't sure how he felt about that. Humans hadn't come to space looking for war. They had come looking for friends, for knowledge, for a place among the stars. But sometimes you didn't get to choose your reputation. Sometimes your reputation was chosen for you by your actions. And humanity's actions at Epsilon Prime had spoken louder than any words could. "Are reviving Krellian ships and crew?" Danny asked. Jake looked at the tactical display, at the broken hulks of enemy vessels floating in space. "We hold them as prisoners of war pending council investigation. They murdered 3,000 civilians. They'll answer for that." "The Krellians aren't going to like that," Amy observed. "I don't care what they like, Lieutenant. They started this fight. We finished it." "Now they pay the price," Jake said firmly. The Vanguard and her sister ships moved into orbit around Epsilon Prime. Medical teams prepared to deploy to the surface. Engineers readied repair equipment. The work of saving lives and rebuilding would take days or weeks. But the killing was over. The colony was safe. And the galaxy had just learned an important lesson about humanity. When you called for help, they answered. When you threatened their friends, they hit back harder than you could imagine. They were from Earth, a death world that had forged them into survivors and warriors. And now they were here among the stars, bringing their protection to those who needed it. The space between the ships became a storm of weapons fire. Plasma bolts from the Krellians, kinetic rounds and missiles from the humans. But the humans had an advantage. They were faster, their targeting was more precise, and their weapons were designed to punch through the kind of shields the Krellians used. Every round that hit did massive damage. The Krellian flagship's shields collapsed under the sustained fire. The next kinetic round hit the ship's hull directly. It entered through the front and exited through the back, leaving a perfectly round hole. Atmosphere vented into space in a glittering cloud of frozen air and debris. Direct hit on the command ship. Their main power systems are failing. "I'm reading secondary explosions throughout the vessel," Danny reported with satisfaction in his voice. "Good. Move to the next target. Defender and Liberator, concentrate fire on the ships bombing the surface. Stop that bombardment now," Jake commanded. "Shields at maximum power," Lisa reported. "Sensors active. I'll have a tactical picture the moment we drop out of hyperspace," Amy said. "Defender and Liberator are in formation and ready," added the communications officer. Jake returned to his chair and gripped the armrests. "Here we go. Drop out of hyperspace on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The stars stopped stretching and suddenly became points of light again. The Vanguard and her sister ships emerged at the edge of the Epsilon Prime system. What appeared on the tactical display made Jake's blood turn cold. The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to see what humans could do when their friends were threatened.